He's the independent MP for the People's Republic of Islington North. And he is the Prime Minister of the people. Please give a warm welcome to Jeremy Corbyn!
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And what a pleasure it is to share this platform with so many wonderful people and wonderful speakers. And I particularly want to thank Stephen Capo for coming here today and giving us that moving testimony of what brutality and carnage does to people's lives, and the way he has expressed his solidarity with the Palestinian people. All across the UK, people are showing their anger at what is going on. The 300,000 of us here today represent a very broad cross-section of the people of this country. 1 year on, and this war has continued and getting worse and worse. Just think about it. At this very moment, there are bombs falling in Gaza, in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Syria, Iran, Iraq. The bombing has brought about the deaths of 40,000 people in Gaza, including 16,000 children. And Gaza is now a place of unbelievable levels of poverty, of hunger, of lack of medicine, and famine that has taken hold. All of it specifically designed to happen by the Israeli bombardment and the weapons they've used to bring that about. And since they started the invasion of Gaza, what hasn't been noticed by much of the media is a very large number of new settlements have been built by Israel in the West Bank. Tens of thousands of Palestinians on the West Bank have been arrested and remain in prison, many of them in administrative detention. Attacks have taken place against Palestinian villages, and there have been deaths as well on the West Bank. And then when the action started in Lebanon, the numbers of people now driven from their homes runs into the hundreds of thousands, as the Israeli army has issued orders to people to leave all of southern Lebanon to allow Israel to occupy it. And the bombardment doesn't stop there. It goes across the borders into other countries as well. And now we understand there is large bombardment taking place in Yemen. So you ask yourself this question: how is it that Israel, a country of 5 million, is able to mount such a massive attack on so many of its neighbours? And the answer is quite simply, they have endless supplies of some of the most sophisticated weapons the world has ever seen. $20 billion worth of US weapons have already been exported to Israel. This country is also complicit, not so much in the great volume of them, but in the crucial parts that are supplied for those planes that are raining bombs down on Lebanon and Gaza at the present time. And so, whilst weapons come mainly from the US, but also from Italy, also from this country, and also from Germany, it's quite significant that today the French president has called for a halt to arms supplies to Israel just an hour ago. And so one hopes that that is going to have an effect. But it's our voice and our noise globally that's going to have an effect. Because it's quite interesting that the media opinion in the USA and Britain and most of Western Europe essentially continues the argument that Israel's actions are an act of self-defense. I must say I find it very hard to understand how killing 16,000 children in Gaza can ever be called any kind of act of self-defense. But in other parts of the world, across Asia, across Africa, across Latin America, political opinion and public opinion is very much with the Palestinian people. And I just ask you this question. Israel has been hauled before the International Court of Justice, and after very, very detailed and incredibly careful deliberation, they concluded Israel's actions amounted to genocidal acts against the Palestinian people. Netanyahu and others have been arraigned to go before the International Criminal Court for acts they've taken against the Palestinian people, and arrest warrants have been issued for them. How is it that a country that has been found wrong in the ICJ, wrong in the ICC, many times found wrong within the Geneva Convention about the authority of occupying powers, been condemned by the General Assembly of the UN and the Security Council, and then decides it will no longer allow even the UN General Secretary to visit the country, still receives weapons from so many places around the world that continue the killing. Our message to this government, our message to the Foreign Office, our message to Parliament is halt the arms supplies now before more people die. And whilst there's all kinds of very authoritative and very clever discussions take place on late night television about who said what, who did what, who's done what, and who said what over the past year, as Guterres pointed out at the time, it didn't all come from nowhere. The principal issue is the illegal occupation of Palestine and the treatment of Palestinian people, the denial of their right to be able to live in peace in the land that they were born in, and their denial of their right to be an independent state which they deserve to be. And so my message to our government, my message to our media is, you can say what you like, but until you halt the arms supplies, until you are serious about supporting the Palestinian people, we're going to be here in Whitehall, in Birmingham, in Glasgow, in Edinburgh, in Newcastle, in Bristol, in Southampton, in every city all across this country. And we'll be there in every capital city in Europe, because the popular movement of decent, peace-loving people is they want to see an end to the conflict and an end to the war. We are at a very, very dangerous, crucial moment. Iran being bombed, where does that lead to? What other big powers does that bring in? The whole issue of the refusal to deal with the injustice of the Palestinian people is spiraling out of control into a regional conflict when goodness knows how many more will die. Our movement is a voice for peace. Our movement is a voice for justice. Our movement is a movement of unity of all peoples. And I simply say this to the Prime Minister. We are not ever going away. We will stand here as long as it takes, for as long as it takes, until the people of Palestine are able to live in freedom and in peace and in justice. Thank you very much.